Welcome back to another episode here. Today we have the newest Division I head coach at Oakland University is where he's at, and that is Jordon Banfield. What's up, man?
Good to see you, Josh. Thanks for having me on today, man. Excited to talk about Oakland and a little bit about my journey and what we got planned for the future here.
So it was reported I don't remember where it was, but it said you were the youngest head coach in Division I as well. Is that true? Do you know if that's true or not?
I honestly don't know. I've seen it written. I got a feeling there's probably somebody that's got me beat by a hair, but I'm certainly close. So we'll go with it, man.
What are you, 33?
Yeah, I'm 33.
Okay, so
I know there were some guys that were hired younger than me, but I'm not sure if they've passed me up now or not.
I believe the guy at Southern Illinois is also 33, so I guess it comes down to the month.
Okay. Well, we actually play them. We just added a game to play them, I think, in week 4 this year. So
nice. Perfect. Okay, so Oakland University is actually not on the Pacific Ocean like I originally had thought it was. So where is this place? What level is it, and what's going on there?
Yeah, it's definitely not on the Pacific Coast. It's in Metro Detroit in Michigan, north of the city in a town called Rochester. Really, really nice suburban area. I think it's actually the third safest campus in the country by some publication that puts that out. But just a really, really good area. A ton of the auto execs and people live in that area. Oakland Hills Country Club would be something that a lot of people have heard of. Hosted U.S. Opens and Ryder Cups is right in the area.
That's right. I've heard of that. Okay.
Yeah, use that as your point of reference, but just a really good area. It's about an hour from where I grew up, actually, in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor is south of there, so really familiar area to me, and kind of feels like, regionally, coaching has taken me full circle. Grew up in Ann Arbor, stayed there, and did the travel ball thing, and then moved on to Illinois to get my coaching career started, then Texas, then Arizona, then Ohio, and now back to Michigan. So quite the circuitous route I took to get here, but really excited about it.
What's the university? I know you're new there and you're trying to probably take in a lot of information, but some of the academics, what have you learned about the academics there?
I guess one thing I skipped, Division I in the Horizon League, something I probably should have covered.
Yeah, definitely. Division I. Got it.
As far as the demographics of the university, it's 20,000 students. So a really, really good college experience for our guys. Academically, we have a really broad offering, can offer a major in just about anything that somebody wants to pursue as far as a career. We're a really broad, range of opportunities there for our guys. Just feel like we can give them a really good experience at Oakland. It's a good place with good people. I've been really impressed, obviously, with administration and just everyone on every side of things. And in the brief time I've been there, and I'm not even on campus full time yet with everything that's going on, but I've been going back and forth. Just really excited about the opportunities that it's going to give our players to have a really well-rounded, good experience.
Okay, so what has the history of the team been? Is this a situation where you got to continue the success, build the success, rebuild from ground up? Where do you feel like the program is at that you're taking over?
I think the perception would be that we need to build it from wherever it's been. I think that's one of the biggest things I talked about with our athletic director, Steve Waterfield, was, we need to build a brand, and we need to give Oakland, University baseball a presence. They need to have a presence on the recruiting trail, on the national scene. Like you said, I thought Oakland might have been in California. I think that perception is out there a little bit, and it's more just a lack of knowledge because there hasn't been that presence, and that's one of the biggest things. Obviously, goal number one is just to give our student athletes a first-rate experience and be competitive. But in order to do that and start to recruit on the level that we feel like we need to, we have to build that brand and just have a presence. Oakland needs to be heard from on the recruiting trail, and to do that, people got to know who we are. So getting on with guys like yourself and doing stuff like this and using Twitter and all that, I think is important, just to make people aware of what we got going on. And, when people hear the name Oakland baseball, I want them to know what it is. And hopefully that's starting to change just with us being out there a little bit. A little bit more difficult because we can't go watch any games right now, which stinks, but everybody's battling through that, and we're going to use some other methods to make that happen in the meantime until we are.
Well, let's talk about some of those other methods that schools are using these days, because I saw I think it was yesterday, You put out something that came from, I guess it was an IT guy. You could tell me, but some new graphics and stuff.
Yep,
And that is definitely a trend on the recruiting trail. How do you use that stuff? Why is that stuff important?
for sure. I think people will use a lot of buzzwords and talk about, we need to all the stuff that honestly, it's more basic than that to me. We just need to have a presence, and the more that people see things and the more that people see things that catch their eye and the more ways we can use to educate people in the baseball community about Oakland University and what we believe the baseball program is going to be, I think is a good thing. So I've been working with Giz, one of our ADs, Dan, our guy who does all our graphics on just getting some stuff out. And that's, really to do two things. Number one, build the brand, just increase awareness of our program and what it is and what we're trying to do. And I think that, the no little things, sort of mantra is what I want our program to live and operate by. And so we've had that out there and that's going to be our thing. And I don't want that to be a buzzword or something that's, fake. I think a lot of times you see stuff, out there like that and it's not always enacted. That's how our program is going to operate. I think you hear the term little things a lot. If they're little, that says to me that they're unimportant. For us, everything's important. Whether it's, I want to have our guys be the guys that do everything right, that are thought of on campus as the guys that just handle their business, do things right, are respectful. And I want everybody on campus to think of our guys that way. So that's the mantra on and off the field, because I think I said this to Steve in the interview process is, the guy that I can't trust to pre-register for classes or pick up the piece of trash that blew on the field is the same guy that we can't trust as a program to get the squeeze sign in the ninth to walk off in the conference tournament. So just really want to build that as one of the foundations of our culture, and it's something that I really think is important and just sort of a mantra I want our program to operate by. And that starts with me and our staff. I certainly can't expect that from our guys if we don't operate that way. So really try to act that out and make sure that we're abiding by the things that we want our players to.
Well,
with the social media piece. Sorry, Justin.
No, go ahead, please. Social media. That's why I wanted to hear that.
Yeah, the other thing I've really been trying to do is, nobody can get on campus right now, unless they're just driving themselves there, which is legal. We can't even meet with them, and a lot of buildings aren't open and whatnot. Just go out and get some sort of videos and stuff like that up campus, show people, what a good area it is, what a good looking campus we have, and just sort of put some stuff like that out there. I think yesterday I put out the indoor facility. We got 100 yards of turf indoors with cages. I mean, everything you could need. It's really new and nice. Just give people as best a feel for what we have to offer from a campus and facilities standpoint, because they don't have the opportunity to come meet with me and walk around. If they're walking around, it's on their own. So really from our perspective, it's just about finding different ways to educate people about what we're doing at Oakland.
Yeah, and it works. Everybody nowadays I see is going to some sort of like little graphic or GIF or quick video when they land a commitment. They don't say who it is. They let the kid announce it. But it works because then, like for me, I think yesterday you might have done that. And so then I'm searching Twitter, okay, who committed? And I'm looking up Oakland University baseball, and then that kid hasn't put it out there yet, but I start to see other kids that have committed. And so then I'm clicking on these kids and being like, how good are these kids that are committing there? So that stuff does work. It's kind of interesting from that regard. So how have you gotten these? Because I saw you guys have already gotten a couple of commitments. How's that happened already?
Sure.
With a new guy coming in?
Sure. I think it's a mix. Number one, I haven't been off the phone in 2 weeks, basically. So that's just been a big piece of it. It's at this point, it's basically hammering prior relationships. A few are guys who were committed to me at my prior place. A few are guys I've recruited in the past. One of our committed guys was a kid I recruited way back out of high school when I was in Texas, 3 and 4 years ago that went to junior college and has now come back around. And so it's always interesting how those, sort of circles reconnect. And I think it's a good lesson for recruits, but also for coaches, that you just never know how stuff's going to come back around. So, I'm glad I handled that one the right way when he told me he was going somewhere else, because we maintained that relationship. And, when I reached back out, it was really good. Hey, coach, great to hear from you. always enjoyed our conversations back then. He decided to stay, more regional at that point. And now he's headed to Michigan, which is nowhere near regional for him. So,
Right.
it's at this point mostly been just tapping into connects, coaches that I have good relationships with, following up on leads and whatnot, and doing as much as we can over the phone. And then a lot of guys have taken it on themselves actually to drive over, check out campus on their own, just sort of walk around, see the area, that kind of stuff. And I do actually think that we have a campus and an area that sells itself. And that's a benefit right now. I don't think there's a lot we have to explain when guys, get a chance to go see campus. I think they just see, yeah, I've read about it. This really matches up. This is a place I could see myself having a really good experience. And I think with everything that's going on, the area and the safety piece, parents have a lot of concerns right now with everything that's going on in the world. And I think that just getting a chance to get a feel for the area and campus really quiets a lot of those concerns. So I think that, while that's good right now, and we have a campus that I think can market itself through video and just them seeing it, I think it's going to take off and benefit us even more when we can get people on campus and really talking through it and have them see everything.
That's a really interesting point, because I think that is, you try to find some of the positives in this bad situation that we're in, but I see it with a lot of players right now that they can't visit campus, but what they can do is go to the city and look around and get a feel for it. And I think that that's so important, in something that a lot of times they might miss out on when they're just going on a visit, going to campus, turning around, getting out of there. So that's really interesting. And then another point there that I think is important for recruits is you talk about the relationships that you have with them. You see guys that, were either committed or going to commit to your previous place, but now they're going to where you are. And you see that a lot. And I think that that's really important for recruits. A lot of times you're not committing necessarily to the place, you're committing to the people. And so those relationships are so important. And I think it works the other way around too with the kids. Like, you might not be going to a place, but don't burn the bridge or don't disconnect, because you never know. I always, especially with the younger guys, I always talk about that. Like, you don't know where this guy's going to be a year or two from now. So really good points there. I want to transition. Go ahead.
Sorry, one more thing, because I think this is important. I think on the recruiting piece, everyone talks about great recruiters and what makes a great recruiter. And people talk a lot of times about the guy that's always at the field, always at games. I think most Division I college baseball coaches can go to a game and tell you who the best guy is. Who's hitting third and who's playing short, right? I think that that's not that hard to figure out. I think what separates recruiters is the people that can get the kid to say yes to them and commit or sign with their school. And I think that gets lost a lot. And it's something I've tried to really use as a guy who's hiring a staff for the first time. Most people I'm talking to, I assume, can go to a game and pick out the best guy. Yes, there are nuances, and are some people better at evaluating, certain areas, certainly. But I think that the real separator in recruiting is the people that can talk to a kid, talk to their family, and build a relationship where they trust them and want to go to their place. And I think you see it with, guys that stick, and when it works out, is those are the coaches that have established the relationship. Because parents want to send their kids to places that they trust, but more importantly, people that they trust, right? Unless we're talking about a university that everyone in the country knows, and it's somebody's dream school that they just grew up, feeling like they had to go to, you know what I mean? Be that, obviously I grew up in Ann Arbor. I wanted to go to Michigan. Somebody that grows up in Columbus wants to go to Ohio State, whatever. LA, every kid wants to go to USC or UCLA. I think that outside of that, it's really about relationships and coaching staffs. And then the academic piece, of course, but, the relationship piece is huge. And it's something that I've told myself, is that as a head guy, I'm not gonna back off in the recruiting piece. That's what I do. I'm the recruiting coordinator, on our staff for now. And if we get to the point where I feel like we've got our process and we're airtight there, and that can be transitioned 100%. And everyone on our staff's going to recruit, but I don't plan on backing off in that regard at all. Because I think the other truth of the matter is that assistants come and go. There's a lot of job opportunities, and if we're going to have the right people on staff, they're going to get opportunities, and that's good. I want them to have those. The stability tends to be with the head coach, and I want to make sure that I have those relationships, so that when stuff like that does happen, we can hold on to those guys that we have committed and signed, and even in our program, already, and have them feel comfortable with the place and with me, not just with the guy that was, the point man on the phone.
So let's transition to your path to being a head coach, because that is the dream for a lot of young coaches out there. Your path is fairly interesting in looking back at it. I mean, you were literally, I believe, like a youth instructor at one point is kind of how you started out, right? Where you see a lot of guys end up going the route of just jumping straight into like a volley position or something like that. So how does, and then you were a scout for the Rangers, correct?
Yep, to that part-time.
And then you became a PBR director and back into coaching, then a head coach. So how do you start at a youth coach, get into professional baseball, get into the private stuff, and then get your way to a head coach? Like, what is it those experiences that kind of took you, up and up and up?
Sure. So I think, yeah, man, it's certainly, I've had a varied and interesting route to getting where I am. You know, I wasn't a great player by any stretch.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, good. Well, we're on the same level there. Fine, just didn't throw hard enough and whatever. So, went to Michigan, and actually while I was there, did some high school coaching just because it was needed something to do, and felt like I wanted to stay in it. And honestly, talent wise, I didn't have a ton. I was really competitive and pitched at a decent level because of that. So got in, did some high school coaching. Really, the high school side just that didn't do it for me at all. Got started teaching some lessons at a place, and got approached by a group of parents, I guess, actually, to take over a travel ball team that had kind of been okay. I think they were 13 or 14, whatever, and it was going to pay a little bit, and going to get to spend the summer coaching baseball. I didn't really have any idea what that would turn into. A year later, I basically took that organization over, and it was just one team, but we did a year-round deal and bought the place I was teaching lessons at and turned that into a business that we had a ton of success with. So I ran the travel ball org for, I think, 5 years. It was basically a 12-month-a-year deal with one team. Certainly didn't end up making any money off of it once I took it over, because it was more for me about the coaching piece and competing. And we kept getting better. The guys kept moving up. I developed, really close relationships with them. And, 5 years later, we'd been to the Connie Mack World Series 2 years in a row, had 20 Division I players. We had our first big leaguer last year, James Burke, former player of mine, made his debut with the Nationals. And our pitching coach actually was on that team also as our number one pitcher, and he went to Michigan on a baseball scholarship, ended up getting hurt, and got into coaching. But so I finished out the travel ball thing, was running my business, living a good life in Michigan, doing fine financially, and just felt like I didn't want to just be a travel ball coach forever. I felt like I wanted to try to push it to the next level, and the lesson thing got old, to be honest. Enjoyed the business, certainly enjoyed the money, but teaching the lessons, the ones I was teaching, got pretty tired of that and just felt like I needed to go do something new. I'd basically lived in Ann Arbor my whole life. So sort of had a Division I job lined up, spent a summer basically, planning to go do that, and got told at the last minute that by HR that I couldn't be hired because I didn't meet the posting qualifications of having college coaching experience. So that was probably like a July curveball. And I ended up just sort of applying for some random stuff, just committed to going and doing it, and got a call from Chris Ramirez, who's now one of my best friends, at University of Illinois Springfield. Had no idea what that even was. Looked up their record, knew he was brand new, just as he was calling me. And I think they'd won like 10 games the year before, and they didn't have a field. Could have been arguably the least successful Division II program in the country, when he got there. And said, hey, man, just was looking at what you sent me and really liked to talk. So we talked on the phone for a while. He called me back like a half hour later and was like, I'd like to offer you a job. What the heck are you talking about, man? Like, I just talked to you for an hour. And
at the risk of sounding really stupid, is that the head coach now of Lenore Ryan?
It is, yeah. Okay. So he took the job like a year ago.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so he calls you a half hour later. And
called me up, offered me a job. And I'm like, a job? Like, what's it pay? Well, nothing. Awesome. I said, I'm definitely interested. Can I drive over there next week and just see? Like, I don't even know where Springfield, Illinois is, I heard it's the capital, but
isn't that where the Simpsons live? It's where the Simpsons live, right?
So I don't know. I think there's confusion about whether that's Springfield, Missouri or Illinois, but yeah.
Okay.
we'll go with it. Anyway, so I drove like, I think 6 hours from Ann Arbor to Springfield, Illinois, and met with him. And it's like, this is an okay place. This is going to be a really different life. I'm going to go from making good money to no money, and I'm going to, sell my condo in Ann Arbor, and I'm going to move to Springfield and move into an apartment and just do this college coaching thing. And honestly, it was the best thing I ever did. Number one, I learned how to live a cheaper life, I guess. Certainly ran out some credit card bills while I was there in my first year. But him and I developed a relationship that's lifelong at this point. He's one of my best friends and just an awesome guy. And he basically, I got there, and as we got to know each other in the first week or two, he said, you be the recruiting coordinator. I don't think he planned on just turning it over, but really did. I think we just established a way of doing things, and the recruiting piece was pretty much me. It was, hey man, you do what you need to do. If you need to miss practice, go. We need to go sign a ton of guys. So he ended up signing like maybe 34 guys in the first class. And that group of guys that we signed with, we only had a couple scholarships at that point, ended up as seniors going 45-5 and finishing third in the country. So some really good stories in there. There was a freshman from Chicago that I think led the NCAA in homers 2 years in a row with 24. It just ended up being a really good group that turned that program from basically nothing into really something in a hurry. And after 2 years there, we were getting better. Hadn't totally broke through yet, but we're significantly better. From 10 wins to over 500 and into conference tourney and all that kind of stuff. Got a chance to take a Division I job in Texas, closer to Mexico, really. Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Got that job and went down there and did that for 2 years. Same thing, sort of hey, we're hiring you. We're impressed by what you've done recruiting wise. Go hit the recruiting trail. So the first year, that was basically what I did. Signed a lot of players. We got better the second year significantly. I think almost 500. Had some opportunities to do some really good stuff. I think blew a 7-0 lead on Texas and a few other things. And at the end of that year, the staff wasn't retained. So I was like, shoot, man. I just moved to nearly Mexico, McAllen, Texas, or Edinburgh, and now I got no job. So that was certainly an interesting time in my life and my coaching career. And what I did there, man, honestly, was I think that grew me up a lot. I was starting to get, closer to my late 20s and hey, what do I need to do here? What makes sense? Let's make a really smart decision, because, last time you made the obvious one. You took the Division I job that paid more. What do I need to do to get where I want to go? And where do I want to go? Always knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to be a Division I head coach, but, a lot of guys want to be Division I head coaches and never get that chance. And there's so much luck involved, just getting in touch with the right people and making the right connect and being in the right place at the right time and interviewing with somebody that believes in you, So, I was looking around and talked to a ton of coaches and had a few things lined up. And, it'd be somebody, was a finalist for a job and, hey, would you like to work for me if I get it? And just nothing that I thought was obvious, ever came through. So I ended up talking with the PBR guys who I had known for a long time. And they were looking to start Arizona. And I loved Arizona from recruiting it, thought it'd be a place I'd love to live, and just dove all the way in on that. And had a ton of success, built that in a year and a half from zero to, one of their highest grossing states ever, and just did really well with it. Built a lot of great relationships. A lot of people I talk to on a weekly basis still are in Arizona, and really feel like we did a lot for the players there. And, but there was two things. There was, I was very far away from family, my dad in particular, who's in Ann Arbor and starting to get a little older. And, he's sort of my baseball guy. And just the coaching piece, I felt like there was a little bit missing. Loved living in Tempe. It doesn't get any better than that. Loved playing golf and doing all that, but just found I had too much free time. But wasn't going to make a move for anything other than something that I felt obvious, was obvious. And had a chance to go to Akron as associate head coach and sign a whole team, start from scratch. And I think a lot of people would say that ain't obvious, man. Like, what are you talking about? Obvious. for me, it was for two reasons. It got me back close to home, got me close to my dad, being able to see him again and all that. And, it also, I thought, gave me a real path to get the job I always wanted, which was to be a Division I head coach. Was in line there to take over and really love that place. I think it's a good place, and there's good people in administration and all that. And was perfectly happy with just doing what I was doing and taking over there when that opportunity presented itself. Whenever that was. And then, sort of out of nowhere this spring, when the whole quarantine thing is going on, somebody gave my information to Oakland. Got an email from Steve Waterfield, our athletic director. Hey, would you like to talk about this job? Yeah, I'd love to. Just saw it was open, hadn't even really thought about it, and we just started to have conversations, and everything just started to kind of fall into place. Felt like there was a really good connection there. I felt like I had a good understanding of the program and what it's been, just being from the area and running the travel ball side. Really, you see how different programs and what their presence is and what the perception is and how they recruit and all that. And I saw a lot of positives in this place, and Steve's been there, I think now a year and a half, going on 2 years. And the positives that I saw really lined up with his, and it just felt like it made a lot of sense. The interview process, while I was just, locked in my house like everybody else, trying to get out in the morning for a run every day just to breathe some fresh air, but basically being inside all the time, spent like, ended up being almost 2 months, just going through rounds and rounds of interviews. It was a really thorough process. And, I think just what you read and whatever, and I sort of tried to keep my name out of it and just kind of be the guy in the background that was moving along, and just kept moving on from round to round to round of interviews, and started to feel like, this might work out. Like, I really feel like this makes a lot of sense. The more people I talk to in the department and talking with some of the other coaches, getting a chance to talk to Greg Campy, who's a, college basketball coaching legend, and, Jeff Tungate, the women's coach, who's actually a baseball alum, talking with Steve and talking with Andy, Adrian's our sport administrator. Just a lot of stuff really started to line up and felt like it made sense and was a fit. Somehow they thought the same thing, and Steve called me, I guess 2.5 weeks ago now, and offered me the job. And I about passed out, to be honest, man. It was like, this is like real,
Right.
I think, back, I guess it's 3.5 years now, you don't have a college coaching job, and you're sort of, pivoting on what's the way to get where you want, or is that still what you want, or knowing it's what you want, is it feasible? To now, it's been unbelievable, man. And I'm really excited. And I told our guys this, and I tell every recruit I talk to this, I'm not going to screw it up, because I don't know if I'll ever get another chance if it doesn't work out. We're going to make this work.
Well,
it's if we do things right, it's going to work, because it's a good place, and there's no reason it shouldn't.
if there's something I take away from there, to become a head coach at a Division I school, you have to be willing to move all over the place every other year, it seems like, right? It's interesting, because in a lot of careers, if they see a resume like yours, they're thinking, well, this guy isn't committed somewhere because he moves somewhere every year, right? He gets a job and then.
And on the 2-year plan, yeah, I'm hoping to. Well, not hoping, that's gonna stop, because this is my spot, and we're gonna.
Right, but that's part of becoming, moving up the ladder of coaching. It's a totally different set of standards. So why did they hire you? When you got the job, why did they say you were the right fit? I
think that the most simple thing is that they bought into the vision I presented and trusted that I was going to do whatever it took to make that happen. I think Steve and I have talked a lot, and he always said a couple things to me was number one, I believe you really want this, and I believe that you think this is a good place. And I think I said this, when I talked to Neil on sort of my introductory, I guess not press conference, Zoom, or whatever you want to call it. The last question that he asked me before he offered me the job was, do you think this is a big time job? 100%. Because it's my job, hopefully. And it's the only one that matters to me. If he was offering me the job at Oakland University or Florida State, or the job to manage the Yankees, you're going to get the same effort out of me, and I'm going to make sure you get the same effort out of my staff and our players, because this is where we are, and it's the place that we're going to make great. You know, the people are what dictates success. Uniforms, you know, don't have any impact when you're on the field. You know, we could wear blank jerseys. It's about the people in them, and the people developing the people that dictate success. So I think he really, you know, agreed with a lot of what I was saying in that regard, but more importantly, believed that I believed it, and was going to do what it takes to make that happen. And just, you know, there's a lot of work to be done, you know, be it on the fundraising side, on the recruiting side, on the team building side, on just the building the awareness of the program side. And I guess I don't know what it was, you know, maybe you could ask him sometime, but he believed that I was going to get it done, and that I was going to, you know, put my head down and just keep working until we got it, you know, where we needed to. And you know, I'm not patient. You know, I know that good things don't happen overnight, but that's what we're going to try to do. That's the goal. I don't tell anybody, you know, I hope to be good in 4 years. I've never shown up to a game, you know, expecting to lose. I expect that we're going to do things right at practice from day one, and we're going to get better every day, and we're going to go into the opener next spring and show up prepared to win. And whether we win or lose, the next day we're going to show up and do the same thing. And as we continue to build that culture and that environment for our guys and continue to recruit talent, we're going to get it there. I don't have any doubt about that. And I think he believed I was capable of leading the program, and can't thank him enough for believing that and giving me the opportunity, because I think a lot of people say, you know, all they needed was a chance. And I do believe that, but you know, you can't, everyone doesn't get a chance. You know, you gotta convince a decision maker that you're the guy that deserves the chance. You know, there's only 300 of these jobs. I think, you know, I'll talk to people or friends that aren't in baseball or college athletics, and you know, oh, that job, you know, is that hard to get? Yeah, you know, there's 300 of them, and there's, you know, who knows how many thousands of people that want them, and I'm aware of that, and I don't take it lightly. It's the important thing to me, and we're going to make it work. And
what do you
have staff of people that believe the same thing, and we're going to get it done.
What do you anticipate is going to be the biggest challenge for you transitioning into a head coach?
So I think the biggest challenge is just going to be balancing everything, every responsibility that I have. Now, the unique thing for me was that at my last job, you know, on the administrative side and the, you know, from budgets to compliance, recruiting, classes, NCAA certifications, scheduling, I was doing all that stuff. So that stuff isn't new to me. And I think that's going to be a big benefit. And that's something that I talked about a lot in the process. And that's one of the things that I really thank Akron for is giving me a chance to do all that stuff, because it prepared me in that regard, you know, to be a head coach. I think, you know, there's a lot of good baseball coaches, and the on-field piece, you know, there's a lot of guys that can handle that, you know, but that's 2.5 hours of our day. It's a 10 or a 12, or right now it's a, I don't know, 16-hour day, you know, and just being able to manage all the other pieces are what I think is the biggest adjustment for a lot of head coaches, you know, and I think that, you know, I have done most, if not all of that stuff. The fundraising piece is something I'm going to spend a lot more time on than I ever have before, and just get to go play more golf, so that's good. But just managing all that and trusting, you know, the guys that I hire to do their thing. You know, if I was just talking with a guy I was, you know, sort of interviewing the other day, you know, say, hey man, if these are going to be your responsibilities, they're yours. You know, you don't need to check in with me every hour on it. Just get it done. You know, show it to me at the end, and you know, we'll make sure you're on the right track. But you know, I'm going to really commit to trusting my staff to do their thing. And I think that when you're an assistant, you learn a lot about stuff that different head coaches you work for do, and what you think works and what doesn't. And I do this the same, and I do this a little different. And you know, really just adhering to that is a big piece of what I want to do as a head coach. You know, I want to be the guy that I wanted to work for, you know, and that means holding myself accountable, holding our staff accountable for sure, holding our players accountable, but also just giving them opportunity to do their thing and make mistakes. I'm certainly going to make them. I know I did when I was an assistant, you know, and I respect anybody that works. If they're gonna, be totally committed to our program, um, be loyal to the program. You know, mistakes are no big deal, man. We'll get there. We'll correct them, and we're gonna grow and learn together. I'm certainly not gonna be the, I'm gonna call it early 30s because I don't want to make myself feel older than that. Guy who comes in acting like I know it all.
So to finish up here, what do you think is going to be the key of all the things you've mentioned? What is the key to turning the program into a winner and a place that a lot of kids want to be?
I think the honest key is just going to be sticking to what our stated goals and plans and ideologies are for how this is going to work, which is we're going to recruit talented players. We're going to coach them hard. We're going to have high expectations, and we're going to have, we're going to expect that those are adhered to every day by everyone in the program, and not letting that slip a little bit day by day. I think that, one of the things that I've seen as an assistant is that at the places that just have their standards, they hold themselves to it, and that doesn't change. Those are the places that just consistently, you just get better and better and better. If you start to let things slip a little bit, we say we're going to do things one way, and all of a sudden, one day we just leave the dugout a mess because we're in a hurry. Well, then the next day it gets worse, and pretty stuff like that just slips. And is junk at the dugout going to win or lose us a game? No, it's not. I'm not the guy that believes that has a direct correlation. But at the same point, it does, because it shows that we're not adhering to one piece of stuff that we say is important. And as that slips, we'll slip back into a place that we don't want to be. So just really, really making sure that we hold ourselves as a staff, myself as the head coach, and our players accountable, is going to be the biggest thing. And we're not always going to see the benefits of that every day. I certainly understand that we will have a bad practice. That's okay. That's not okay, but that's inevitable. And just making sure that we hold ourselves accountable for that as a program, and be self-aware. I think that's a huge thing that I think I've gotten better at. And make changes and implement things that we think are going to help us stay on the track that we need to be on, and just adhering to that is going to be the biggest thing. To say there's one thing at fundraising, we're just going to stick to what we believe. I've made really sure that the guys that I'm going to bring on board as a staff, believe in the vision that I presented. I think the same way that Steve probably did when he decided to give me the opportunity. And we're going to adhere to that and make sure that we don't make any excuses. We're not going to complain. The field is something that's gotten a lot of publicity. I told our guys, on our Zoom calls, our returning players, I think that was it 14 guys, I'm working my tail off to make sure that we get turf, and I don't have any problem saying that. We need to get turf, and I'm spending a lot of time doing that, and we will get that. But in the meantime, we're not going to talk about the field. It's got 3 bases, a mound, and a home plate, and both teams got to play on it. And if we allow that type of negativity or excuse making to creep in, it'll show up in other areas. So just really adhering to all those things that I've laid out, and not letting them slip, because it's easy to let something slip a little bit for one day, and before you know, you look up and it's a month later, and all your players just showed up to weights wearing different clothes. So just making sure that all the things that I think need to be done right, and that I believe are important, and to maintain our culture, making sure that we adhere to those. That's going to be the biggest thing, and being able to be willing to be the guy to correct those things when we need to.
You've just described what makes me a terrible parent. Take away the iPad for the night, but then later on be like, I don't care, I just want to lay down.
Get back 5 minutes later.
Here's your damn iPad, just be quiet. Yeah.
I'm gonna really try not to mimic that. When it's your kid and they're crying or whatever, it's probably a little different.
I've lost all control.
The biggest thing I've told our guys, and I tell every recruit, is I tell the truth. Probably people that would tell you I do it to a fault. I think that's the easier way to do it. I think it avoids confusion, it avoids misunderstandings and gray area. I just tell the truth. the offer's the offer. The situation's the situation. And you know, I've told all our guys, you know, and this is something you touched on earlier, I think with Rob, that it's harder to come in the office, you know, of the head guy, because that, you know, there's sort of that artificial barrier that gets created there sometimes. I don't want there to be that, and maybe that's inevitable. But and this is true, and I think you hear the words open door policy a lot. My door truly is open. Number one, because it's the same door as the assistants. But also, I want our guys to be able to ask me anything. And if it's off the field stuff or academics, I'll help them with anything. And if it's baseball, I'll answer any question that they have. You know, where do I stand? The only thing I've told them is, you know, baseball wise, on the field wise, don't ask where you stand if you don't want to know the answer. Because I'm going to tell you the truth. That way, you know, sometimes having the uncomfortable conversation up front avoids a lot of problems down the road. And I think it's important to teach young people how to handle the truth. You know, I think people go get a job for the first time and nobody's ever told them the truth, you know, in their entire life. You know, and your boss tells you you're doing a bad job. And the kid's like, the heck are you talking about? I've never been told that my entire life. You know, sometimes you do a bad job. I'll do a bad job sometime, I'm sure. And I'm okay if somebody tells me that, you know, because I'm going to just take it for what it is, listen to the words, and work to correct it. And that's really the mentality I want our guys to have, because I think that's how we're going to prepare them for their adult life. And it's going to help us on the field too.
Coach Banfield, best of luck to you. Congrats on the job at Oakland University, which is in Rochester, Michigan, not on the West Coast. And we look forward to checking back in with you, man. Good luck. Have fun.
It is. Josh, I'm looking forward to it, man. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully we can get you out to Rochester one day.
I don't have the clothes, I don't think. For that.
Well, yeah, I have Oakland baseball parka for you when you visit. We'll take care of you.